Hello, welcome to a very special edition of the number one Bengals podcast. It is a preview of the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders.
There you go.
Yes.
In the wild card round, in a game,
Playoffs.
The playoffs.
The pirates of the desert meet the cats of the jungle. And I will say, in case the viewer has been living somewhere where there is no internet or antenna, this is a playoff game. And the last time the Bengals were in the playoffs was 2015?
Right. And
it's been a long time.
One of the guys who was on that team was Adam Snackman Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Who's going to be on this show.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this guy is incredible. He was a Pro Bowler in 2015, All-Pro 2014.
Just
Courtney,
gobbling up the ghosts of other teams.
And if you go back to 1982, he won an award for Best Commercial Arcade Game.
No.
So this guy, he's very eclectic background. We also have the very special Dennis Ackerman and a Stanford Routt, a former cornerback, 8 years in the league, played for the Raiders. We have them. They're from the Bleav in the Raiders podcast. They're going to join us. So it's 3 podcasts in one. But before all of that, real quickly, Courtney has demanded that we talk about Brinks.tv because she's very excited about the new podcast she's producing, which is called, Tackling Your Emotions. It's hosted by Mike Ditka. And Ditka...
Mike is alive.
It doesn't... please, don't get caught up in the details. But
So Mike Ditka?
Mike Ditka was also a guest on the Ray Lewis show. It's a real show with the real Ray Lewis. You can check that out. He was on there talking about vulgarity, crudity, and the championship mentality. And most importantly, they have the Shield Your Babies from the NFL show with Alicia, the host, and she had the guest of Felicia Reeder, the mother of DJ Reeder. And I'm not kidding. She brought in a mac and cheese recipe that gives him super strength and actually produces... Courtney, I'm not sure if I understood why, but I think it gives him so much gas that it produces a protective bubble from getting tackled or getting hits.
You need to avoid that, Dadio, that mac and cheese.
Courtney sent me some of it before the show, and I had to. That's why the show is starting a little late. Because
thank God we're working remotely.
It was getting caught on the mic. Okay, look, guys, I want to start with the Bleav in the Raiders guys. They are here to break down this amazing matchup where we're talking about a red-hot Raiders team that held Joe Burrow to like 100 yards passing last time. And they're going to tell us what they think is the keys to this game. So please welcome Dennis Ackerman and Stanford Routt.
Oh, yeah. Welcome, guys.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys having us on.
Yes,
great to
Dennis,
see you.
Dennis is such a gentle man, such a great, wonderful, pleasant person to have on the show. I'm so embarrassed when I have to rip his team because it just doesn't feel right. It almost doesn't feel right. But Dennis this guy has been following the team. He told me he was there at the Bo Jackson game and he saw it happen live. So he's been with this team for a very long time. So Dennis, in your expert opinion, what is the key matchup to this game? Well, first of all, tell us about the Raiders. Where are they? Because they up and down season, a lot of controversy off the field and stuff.
Well, as you mentioned, a lot of, this team's dealt with a lot from John Gruden to Henry Ruggs III to Damon Arnett. At one point they were 5-2, then they lost 5 out of 6. And then Stanford and I both were like, they're 6-7. This season's likely over, but somehow they have showed the resolve, the determination to win 4 in a row. And now they're 10-7. They find themselves in the playoffs for the first time since 2016. And what a game Sunday night, beating the LA Chargers in overtime. It's the 6th time this season. They won on the final drive. And Stan, you could talk more about just what this team has overcome to get where they are right now.
Oh, man, I think when you talk about resiliency and just fighting adversity, they should probably be the poster child for it now, or at least have their face in the Webster's dictionary, just because when you look over the fiasco with John Gruden, like you just said, or Henry Ruggs and Damon Arnett, and then even the Nate Hobbs DUI incident that was right after the Indianapolis Colts victory. I think that right there just shows that Rich Bisaccia has found a way to go ahead and get this team focused and always have them come into play at least the last 4 games of the season. But nonetheless, you look at games like the Kansas City Chiefs, both games, Sunday Night Football and the Sunday afternoon in Arrowhead, when obviously they just got beat down like it was no tomorrow. And even the way they played against the Cincinnati Bengals, that was one that obviously you look at that one as
Yeah, right, Stan?
Yeah, here we go. You look at that one as well, where just clearly they didn't come to play, but somehow, some way they were able to go ahead and find a way to get back on track and get some victories over the last 4 games. And I think right there that just goes to show that it's magical. I think obviously there's a little bit of that John Madden-ish type of air right now that's roaming around that facility. God rest his soul. And I think it's going to be a great game on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. The interesting thing about this team, and Stan, in the Raiders, during their 4-game winning streak, they've won by a combined 12 points. So they don't blow anybody out. They're playing a lot of close games, and I think you're going to see another one on Saturday. And one of the key matchups to me, and I look at this, and I was doing some research, Cincinnati Bengals gave up 55 sacks this year. And if you look at the Raiders pass rush, Stan, you can attest this is one of the strengths of this team. I mean, Max Crosby had 8 sacks. I think he led the NFL in pressures. On the other side is Yannick Ngakoue, and I Bleav he had 10 sacks this year. So the Raiders' pass rush will definitely be key. And I know Joe Burrow has been on fire lately as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about that. Just like we talked about last week going into the game against the Los Angeles Chargers, that they have to pressure the quarterback. They had to pressure Herbert. You saw that Max Crosby was the AFC Defensive Player of the Week for the performance that he had going to the Pro Bowl, as he should, well-deserved. Him and Ngakoue, they're going to have to go ahead and put up the same type of performance, and they're going to have to get after Joe Burrow, because just after watching him, even his rookie season that was short with the ACL injury, but watching him through the entirety length of this season to go along with the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and you got Joe Mixon in the backfield. I think Joe Burrow's done a phenomenal job, and I think that they're going to have to pressure him, not just pressure. They're going to have to put him on the ground if they want to be successful, because I'm not certain that this back end, this secondary, can hold up against a Jamar Chase young phenom, and then T. Higgins as well.
Stan, Derek Carr didn't play particularly well against the Bengals in their first matchup. I think he threw for just over a couple hundred yards, and I think he had 2 turnovers. One thing with Derek, I mean, if you look at the touchdown interception ratio this year, it's pretty pedestrian, 23 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Now, he did set the Raiders' record for most passing yards in a season. But, Stan, I think the Raiders, in terms of Derek Carr, his leadership goes beyond numbers, especially this year.
Yeah, it definitely has. At certain games, you really can see it. And I remember watching several of the games against the Browns or the Colts and even the Chargers game, is that and also the Cowboys game on Thanksgiving. I love the leadership that I'm seeing out of him, but I just need to see more from the standpoint of I am tired of the last drive victories. I want to see some 4-minute offense where we got to go ahead and just run the clock out because we have the lead, like they had with about 5 minutes to go against the Chargers and just completely blew it. So, like I said, Derek Carr, obviously, I said last week, for him to go ahead and show that he's going to be the Raiders quarterback for the next few years to come, he needs to go ahead and earn another playoff arrival. And I think that he's done that. Now we got to see him against a young up-and-coming Joe Burrow, and I think that Burrow is a great leader as well on the Cincinnati Bengals. But Derek Carr, if you really, really are the man like you say you are, like you want everybody Raider Nation to think you are, you need to go ahead and lead this team to victory one way or the other.
Yeah, well, that was amazing analysis. Yeah. You both talked a lot about what Joe Burrow needs to do to stay hot, and
well, I mean, it's almost as if Derek Carr is the Joe Burrow of Las Vegas.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but
it's no Joe Burrows in Las Vegas. I can tell you guys that.
Hey, I recognize that.
I heard the voice.
Now,
ladies and gentlemen,
what an entrance.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Pacman, what's going on, man?
What's going on?
Pacman Jones is in the house. That's right.
Thanks for having me. I think it's going to be a good show. Just to piggyback off what you said, I think Derek Carr have shown nothing but top leadership going through what he had to go through this year. Basically, he's in charge of everything over there right now as far as calling the plays, making sure guys comfortable. I think the interim head coach did a great job of coming in and being a player's coach. But, hey, guys, Saturday at 4 o'clock, it's not going to be Las Vegas time. We're not going to be in the Dome. It's going to be a nasty day in the Natty. And I just can't wait for the show. I think Joe Burrow have shown each week in and in out that he's a winner. He played with a winning attitude. This is the first time we've had 4 guys that are real threats. I mean, I'm talking about from the backfield to all 3 of the receivers and the tight end. It should be an ecstatic weekend this weekend for the Bengals fan, I think.
Wow. I am pumped. I was already pumped.
A message of hope.
Now I have to unbutton
from a hero from Cincinnati.
But look, Mr. Pacman, you are very high on Joe Burrow, rightfully so. The man has thrown for John. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's thrown for 2,000 yards the last 2 weeks. I mean, that is incredible.
About right.
He is throwing. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. He's breaking records left and right. However, he did only throw for 148 yards or something against the Raiders the first time.
Yeah, that's correct.
So now what happened that game? What happened? I know they had their pass rush early on was very effective.
Yeah.
But from a secondary point of view, what were they doing to not let Jamar Chase get, cut loose early on?
Me personally, I think that game was a very surprising game. I think Joe had 150 yards rushing that game. We only threw for 165 yards or something like 135 yards. Carr had a day-breaking record where he got the ball off a lot, but we did keep Jacob, I think, with 30 up under 40, 50 yards, which is normally game planning. We come in and say, hey, if we can stop Brandon Jacob, let Derek Carr beat us in the air with the guys that he had at the time, So you have to give and break which one you want to stop. But offensive-wise, it wasn't all day. You have those type of days. But it's always better when you're playing at home, the surroundings, you got the feel of the locker. You go on your routine route, before you get to the stadium. So people say that home advantage doesn't have an advantage. That's not true in the NFL. It's known that guys play a whole lot better as a group at home because it's known atmosphere.
I mean, that is, even for fans, I think it's true. We perform better when we go to the game, because the whole. No, I mean, you know what foods to expect. Gastronomically, I really struggle on the road. But at home, I know exactly what, I mean? I know what to do to get my head in the game. But
or get your head in the Cheetos bag.
Right. Mr. Pacman, look, you and Stanford both played defensive back. You have obviously a very electric return man. I remember the big return that you had that set up what would have been a game-winning touchdown in our last playoff game if it wasn't for the lying, crooked refs, the fake news refs in the game. But who's the X factor? Who's the guy on, offense or defense that's going to give that a spark that we don't expect, that is going to give either team that advantage?
I look at it as in groups. I don't think last time we played these guys, we didn't get after Carr. He sat back there. He had a lot of time with the ball. I think the X factor is the defensive line this game. They played unbelievable good this whole entire year, but I think the whole front is the X factor of the game. Offensive wise, I think the offensive line is the X factor. Just play how we've been playing with no penalties. But I think as far as defensive wide, we have to make Derek Carr feel uncomfortable. When he's back there and feeling comfortable, he can throw the ball anywhere. Everybody know he can throw the ball. But the first time you hit him, he's one of the first ones that will tuck his tail and go in at halftime. So I think we have to be physical up front. Let him know it's going to be a long day. And I think he'll tap out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned the offensive line, defensive line. That is actually Mr. John Sheeran's specialty. He is one of the hosts here at the number one Bengals podcast. I don't know if you know, we are the number one Bengals podcast for Bleav. And then another Bengals podcast came with you. I'm not sure what it's called. I don't know if number two Bengals podcast or whatever. But Mr. John Sheeran, this guy is our superstar. He's the only guy who understands the rules of football. And basically, he's going to tell us about this very important matchup for the offensive line. They're missing Riley Reiff, who was he was our best right tackle, right, John? And now they have Isaiah Prince going up against a very physical and quick Max Crosby. John, take it away.
Yeah, I'm glad 2022 has brought me a promotion. Last week I was a senior intern. Now I'm a co-host of the show. But now that we're talking about this offensive line, Riley Reiff did not play well against the Raiders, and Dennis and Stanford can attest to this. Max Crosby had his way against Riley Reiff, and I don't know if his ankle injury was bothering him in this game, because eventually he was shut down for the season with that ankle injury. I think he re-injured it the next week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I don't know how the Bengals can do any worse than what Riley Reiff put on the field against the Raiders in Vegas against Crosby, and give all the credit in the world to Crosby, who's playing like at the bare minimum a top 5 edge rusher in the league right now. He's deserving of the Pro Bowl nomination, and the sacks don't really tell the whole story because, like Dennis said earlier, he leads the league in pressures, and he wins more consistently than 99% of other guys. So now you're turning to Isaiah Prince, who has started in Riley Reiff's place ever since he went out with that ankle injury. And I think the inconsistencies are about the same, because Reiff was playing hurt for most of the season, and he was kind of up and down. And the highs were definitely higher than what we've seen from Prince, but I think the lows are just about the same. And I think in terms of this matchup, Max Crosby is going to get his regardless of who he's going up against. And I think that's something that the Bengals kind of have to accept, and they have to game plan around that. And you saw in that game, they didn't just leave Riley Reiff on an island like the Chargers did with Storm Norton in last week's Sunday Night Football matchup. They had Reiff giving help with CJ Uzomah and Drew Sample in pass protection, giving him some chip releases, and even Samaje Perine coming out of the backfield. And they're going to have to do that again in this game. It's just a matter of the Bengals offense now is exploding in the passing game, and they have trust in Joe Burrow to escape the pocket in case pressure impacts the pocket from Crosby's side. How much do they want to continue unleashing those packages, knowing that there's a guy in Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue on the other side who can win one-on-one matchups? I think it's the story of this game, and it's probably talked about just maybe too much at this point because it's definitely the biggest matchup advantage that the Raiders have, but you know that the Bengals are going to go into it aware and cognizant of that matchup.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have to They're going to have to give him help. I mean, help me out, Stanford and Pacman, help me out. What can they do to counter his pass rush moves? They have to chip him. They have to what?
Can't do nothing to combat his pass rush moves.
They don't have to do anything. Oh,
they're not going to be able to do anything. Max Crosby going to have 3 sacks. Watch.
He had 0 sacks last time. He had no sacks last time.
He won't have 3 sacks Saturday. I promise you that. It's going to be – if you go back and look at the first game, there's a lot of things that you can take away from there. I'm quite sure Zach is a smart guy. He's not going to go back and just 5-step drop. It's not going to be that type of game. They got to stop Joe. Everything this week goes through the run game, which was set up the play action game. These guys don't want to do nothing but rush and try to get numbers. They have bad gap control when it comes to running the ball. And as you can see, the screen game is a wide open flood. But I don't want to give up too many things that we can do to be open. But on the film, these guys don't do nothing, doesn't like to do nothing but rush. And when I mean rush, I'm talking about on pass plays. If you go back and look at their run count, the same guys you guys are talking about, the numbers aren't that high.
Now, hold on now.
Yeah, I would say,
I love it.
Stan, you go ahead and take it.
Pacman has spoken.
Hold on now.
Yeah, you take it, Stan.
He gobbles up all the other takes. He governs the other takes up. That's what he does.
I will say this. Dallas Cowboys, Cleveland Browns, Indianapolis Colts.
Chargers.
They did a great job.
Chargers
as well. They did a great job of stopping the run against Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Cleveland Browns, Chubb.
Ezekiel Elliott is not the type of running back that Joe Mixon is right now.
Boom.
Agreed. But I think you would agree that Chubb. I think you would agree Chubb is.
Three that's like Joe right now. The kid from the Colts is really good.
And the Raiders did a good job eliminating.
And that's who the Raiders did a good job against the week right after.
Chubb
2 weeks after they played the Cleveland Browns. Nick Chubb, Pro Bowl running back.
Chubb gets like 5 carries a game. They never let him touch the ball.
All I'm simply saying, listen, the Raiders do not have no Chicago Bears 85 type defense. They don't have no Baltimore Ravens 1999 or 2000 type defense. That's very obvious. We all know that. But when it comes to stopping the run, I've been pleasantly surprised over the last month how well they've done a good job of stopping the run. So I just want you to say that.
Mr. Stanford, did you know that Joe Mixon is the first running back in NFL history to get 100 scrimmage yards and 1 touchdown in every single game against the Raiders? Whether the Las Vegas, Oakland, Los Angeles, Nebraska, New Jersey, whatever Raiders, every Raiders that's ever existed, he is the only one.
Hey, you learn something new every day.
Well, I will say,
that's a good one.
I will say one thing. The Raiders lost Darius Philon against the Chargers, and he was a big reason why their run defense had really improved over the last 4 or 5 games. So that is a blow to the Raiders defense. It really is. And he's out for the entire playoffs. So
and it's a reason. It's the reason why the run game hasn't improved too, because you guys have lost a couple of DBs over there. So I don't think the passing game is getting no better over there. So I guess they guys will stop running the ball to try to compete with you guys as far as passing the ball. I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting this week.
Pacman, I got a question for you. I mean, I think players on both sides, a lot of them, this is the first time either one's going to be, in the playoffs for a lot of these guys. How long does it take for players to settle in before it's a game?
I've never really had those problems because a lot of my career I've always played up under the spotlight. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And regardless what the fans try to make it to be, once the kickoff is on, it's a regular game, man. You know what I mean? You don't go back thinking in the middle of the play like, oh my God, this is a playoff game, we got to win it, So I think after the first 10 plays, you know what I mean, normally the jitters are out of there.
But the intensity level goes up though in the playoffs, there's no doubt, right?
Intensity level goes all the way up. A lot of plays that you might not hit somebody on, you know what I mean, during the regular season, it don't go like that during the playoffs. Everybody's playing for a check. And guys, these are guys' livelihood. You know what I mean? So,
Pacman, doesn't that intensity
go back?
Pacman, doesn't that intensity favor Joe Burrow, who thrives in intense situations?
Well, I don't know if it favors Joe Burrows, but I think all the guys are gonna be excited. Speaking Bengal-wise, I know they will. I think it'll be a little bit different for Oakland with the weather. It's not going to be the dome and all the glitz and the glam. It's going to be a hard-nosed football game, freaking cold as hell, rain coming down on Saturday at 4 o'clock. And it's going to be dark,
They might have to blow in some of that, the smell of garlic. I don't know if you've ever been to Las Vegas, but they have the smell of garlic in parking lots there to keep the crickets out.
Yeah.
They might have to do that in Cincinnati.
They might have to.
Yeah.
It's legalized here too.
Yeah. I mean, so you were there in that AJ McCarron game, right? Where the weather and the first playoff game was kind of slowing him down early. And then what happened? It was the third quarter, the fourth quarter, where he was making every throw. And his nerves were as calm as possible. And that's AJ McCarron. I mean, he's a big time winner in college. He has the mental fortitude, but maybe not as talented, obviously, as a Joe Burrow. But I mean, you saw that up close, and that was we won that game. Just having that kind of calm presence. It won us the first playoff game. And, at the end, we had I didn't know what to call those refs, but I can call them lots of things. You can call them lots of things, but I have to monetize the show, Pacman. But if you want to call them things, that's fine. I would sacrifice the money. But they were not, it was a mess. But basically, we pulled it off, and it was the first time we had the clutch quarterback in there. So what do you see in terms of, this new era of Bengals team and these players? What is different from what we saw with the previous? I don't want to diss the previous Bengals playoff teams. What's different
is the quarterback. The quarterback has played on every spotlight you can pretty much imagine. He's won a national championship. Yeah. And those guys are guys when it comes to playoffs, to playing in the big games. I've said Andy was nowhere near as good, as poised, as anything as Joe Burrow. Andy was a decent quarterback, a backup at his best, but Andy was what we had in Cincinnati. You can look back and try to flip times, but it is what it is. Joe Burrow, he's a winner. He showed it in college. He can make every throw on the field, and he have that killer instinct. Some of these guys that's playing that position, 90% of them that are the greats, the Tom Brady's, the Aaron Rodgers. You can keep going down the list. Those guys are very humble, but when it get time to go, it's a lot of fire in those guys. And it wasn't the same fire in Andy. You know what I mean? You could tell the fire in Joe is way different than the fire that Andy had. You know what I mean?
Andy's was more from the ginger hair. They say it's a fire. It's a certain kind of fire, but it's not the fire that works on the football field. Do you wish that you could come out of retirement and play with Joe Burrow, play with these Bengals?
Hell yeah, to get a win. I'm in there, baby.
John, what are the rules? Can he do it? Is there time?
Can we arrange this?
It's Wednesday night at 8, and Pacman is clearly working out. He looks like he's going back to play.
I'm not even joking.
He looks ready.
Look, Trent Taylor's been good, but
maybe
we could
Stanford wants to get in too. You want to get on the Bengals? You guys both kind of hop in on the Bengals.
I'll go put a black and silver uniform on. I don't know about an orange and black one.
Well, I'll follow you around the whole game and guard you then.
No. So guys, we have here I don't know if you know, we have a professor on the show, Dr. Hodgie Kasmoji. And he is an expert in all sorts of occult sciences. And so he's going to use that to tell us a little bit more about this game.
Well, real quickly. I mean, I'm very lucky to live in Malibu, where by the bridge, by the ocean, there's an oracle. He's a man named Harry. And he observes the waves. And what he has told me is that this is the year when the curse ends for the Cincinnati Bengals. This team has not won a playoff game for a long time. And in fact, the curse began, it seems, when the Bengals played the Raiders back in the 90s, in 1991, lost to the Raiders, but hurt Bo Jackson in the process. I don't know if you know, that was Bo Jackson's last game. And I apologize, by the way, to you guys for that. No one, I hate when players get hurt, especially someone as generationally talented as Bo Jackson. But this is the year, and we've been watching the curse slowly drift from the Bengals to the Raiders. They've had a cursed year with the metaphysical patterns that we have been seeing with the Bengals, beginning with John Gruden and a bunch of other things. But don't worry, guys, because what Harry tells me is that next year you're going to pass the curse on to someone else, and it'll be your year next year. And I hope you will please pass it on to the Pittsburgh Steelers for me.
Right. So, okay. Well, Mr. Pacman Jones, I want to get your prediction for the game, what the final score will be, and who the player of the game will be.
If I had to predict, I would say the final score would be 28-21 Bengals. Player of the game is going to be TJ.
I like it. That is,
I think Husmanzada will be the player of the game.
I love
That's where I thought you were going with that. Yeah.
That is a good one. That is interesting. Yeah.
If you go And there's a lot of reasons, you know. You go back and look at the film, he was open on a lot of plays. With the double, I ain't going to get into all that. But, yeah, I think TJ would be.
Yeah. Stanford is writing all this down, and he's selling it to whoever the Raiders coach is this week. I don't know who they have this week, but they've whoever it is, he's just selling this information because, honestly, the coaching staff is learning on the fly. So, look, Mr. Dennis Ackerman, your prediction, please, sir.
Well, I'll say one thing. Maybe we could send the curse to the Kansas City Chiefs instead of the Pittsburgh Steelers, if that'd be all right. I'd like to send it that way because they've been dominating.
Yeah, they need to have some adversity too, really. They need to know what it tastes like.
Okay. And then I was at that game, by the way, that Bo Jackson got hurt. He was running down the right sideline. It probably would have been called a horse collar tackle today, but I was at that game in 1991 at the LA Coliseum when the Raiders were based in LA. So, you know what? I have picked the Raiders the last 4 weeks. A lot of people thought I was crazy, especially when they were playing the Colts and the Chargers. I just thought there was a way. John Madden karma. It's a tough one because the Raiders on a short week going to Cincinnati. I wonder if they're emotionally exhausted after these last 4 weeks because they basically been playing playoff games these last 4 weeks. But I'm going to go with the Raiders. I'm going to ride it. I don't know how they're going to do it, but somehow they're going to slow down Joe Burrow. I don't know how. The Raiders are going to win a slugfest 21-20.
Okay, player of the game, sir.
Josh Jacobs, the Raiders running back. He's been playing very well. He's averaging almost 100 yards these last 4 games, and the Raiders are running it well, and they're going to have to. In that kind of weather, as Pacman said, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be nasty. You got to be able to run the ball, and the Raiders will do it.
There's no circus in Cincinnati, so sorry. I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to, But, okay, Mr. Stanford.
Oh, man. I would probably have to go with, I would say 27-24. Raiders over the Bengals. Player of the game, I'd probably have to go with Josh Jacobs as well. Pacman said it's not going to be great weather. It's going to be inclement, going to be rainy, a lot of precipitation, and it's going to be cold. So you're definitely going to have to be on the ground a lot more than in the air. So I'll go with Josh Jacobs, the player of the game.
Okay. John.
Oh, man. For the last few weeks, I've picked against the Bengals to a lot of people's dismay and distaste, and every single time they've proven me wrong. And just to put the pressure on Dadio, who's probably going to be picking last, I'm going to say the Raiders win this one. The Raiders have done a great job of stopping the run recently, and the Bengals have not done a great job of stopping the run themselves, and they got Josh Jacobs now. I want to see it to believe it. And you can send this to Bengals players, Pacman, just to get them some motivation for the game. I'm going to say 23-21 Raiders.
Wow.
Good job, John. Good job.
Good job.
I mean, that is Pacman.
The YouTube comments are going to be on fire against poor John.
Well, this is why we are fair and balanced. It's a fair and balanced show, Mr. Adam Jones. We are very objective commentators about the Bengals. But Hodgie, please.
45-3 Bengals.
I like it.
And I think the momentum, the passion of this hungry team is going to show early on. I think the player of the game is going to be Joe Mixon. He's going to be relentless.
Well, I will say this for my prediction, and I hope, again, fair and balanced. You look at the history of the Bengals in the playoffs, the last 3 decades. You look at how hot the Raiders are. And unfortunately, I have to say, I do think the Bengals will be overwhelmed in this game. They're just going to be overwhelmed. And it pains me to say it. I know a lot of people are going to not be happy to hear that, but they're going to be overwhelmed. And the final score will be 38-17 Cincinnati.
How's that overwhelmed?
They're going to be overwhelmed with relief from finally breaking the playoff curse.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
I like the fact that Dadio is like a Mad Libs, like in human form. He's like that he's a comic book in human form.
He's played out at this point. He's done the same shtick for like 6 weeks now.
And you fall for it every time. Look.
Every time.
I don't know how you do it.
Mr. Pacman Jones, you are a very generous and kind soul. You have many children. You have supported many children. And as you can probably tell, Hodgie and I are short enough to be your children.
That is why we are asking you.
That is why you're asking you, yes, you and your friends and all the people who like Stanford, who've made tens of millions of dollars, and now they're sitting there like, what do I do? Do I start a podcast? I have too much time. I have too much money. We are asking people like you to throw away your money and throw it at this show. Patreon.com/DH Sports. But you can also...
I'll be 90% and I'll be on here with you guys every day. How about that?
You come here, Pacman, if you join our show, we will be so grateful. Just come join our show. Be on our show.
Yeah, I think you'll love it.
Don't tell Solomon.
All right.
But you can also go to Bengals Picks. The link is in the description. Bengals Picks. Did you know about this, Mr. Jones, that you go to Bengals Picks and it's free to play. You just register. You use the link in the description. Any other link that'll hack your computer, it'll destroy your life.
You must join through this very link.
That link, and you can win free tickets to Bengals games, and you can get signed merch. You can get stuff from, I'm sure, like Joe Mixon and other great players. All you have to do is register and play. You just pick a stuff like how many touchdowns will this guy get? How many receiving yards? All that kind of stuff. You play Bengals Picks. And I want to thank the people that have signed up. We have about 60 people have signed up so far. And we have a new patron, which is Rick S., $20 a month.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to thank him.
The S stands for stand-up guy.
Stand-up guy. And I want to thank the very electric and adorable and loving, great Mr. Pacman Jones and the Stanford Routt and the gentleman, Dennis Ackerman, for being on their show.
Yes.
And of course, as always,
Mr. Jones, you can tell us fairy tales anytime. We love you. Come on the show. You're the best. Thank you, Stanford. You're a man. Dennis, thank you.
And of course,
appreciate you guys.
Of course, as always, Dr. Hodgie, Dr. Gismoji, and John, Dean Martin, Bing Crosby, Sheeran. I'm Dadio McDuke. We'll see you next time. So long, sweetie. Pies.